Alright, tank cleaning. UFC 346003, Appendix C. Inspection, operation, maintenance of petroleum facility. Tank cleaning. A. Conduct tank cleaning unless otherwise mandated by the operating concerned military service. Directive scheduled and conducted tanks based upon frequency listed below. After clean tanks must be stenciled and in accordance with Section 881 tank stencil requirements. Air Force tanks above the 20,000 gallons capacity every 10 years unless required frequently due to fat fuel quality, except for contact AFPET, AF fuel SME deviation schedule change typically accepted based on TO42B11 requirements. Air Force tanks 20,000 gallons in capacity under during and out of service inspection cycle unless required more frequently due to the potential fuel quality. Issue with the U.S. Army, Navy, U.S. Marine Corps during out of service inspection cycle unless required more frequently due to the potential fuel quality issues. All right, your aluminum honeycomb floating pan section 88911 visual inspection pan guided anti-rotation cable to centering paneling monthly. Visual inspection pan grounding cable to proper attachment wearing binding frequency monthly. Visual inspection for buckling damage to the pan monthly. Aluminum honeycomb floating pan inspection ground cable for the proper attachment wear are binding and annually inspection all floating roof pans seal with such ladders and seal welding seals other shields ensure that they are in good working condition annually. Aluminum honeycomb floating plan cleanliness inspection perimeter tank pan seals accuracy at the time of the service internal inspection. Refer to section 8915 floating roof pan pressure vacuums for inspection maintenance requirements of the floating pan pressure vacuum vents as required. Refer to section 8916 floating pan roof pan legs for inspection maintenance requirements of floating pan legs as required. Steel floating pan section 8912 visual inspection guide anti-rotation cable centering pan monthly. B visual inspection ground cable proper attachment and wearing and binding monthly. C visual inspection buckling and damage of the pan monthly. D visual inspection for the damage of flexion of the rolling ladder if equipped monthly. E steel floating pan inspection ground cable to proper attachment wearing and binding annually. F inspection floating pan penetration seal such as gauge well seals to ensure that they are in good condition annually. Steel floating pan in working condition. Inspect gauge wells and abrasion might indicate out of the roundness and proper centering annually. Inspection vertical ladder with abrasion but might indicate the roundness and then proper centering if equipped outlet annually. Inspect for the damage and deflection of the rolling ladder if equipped annually. And your steel floating pan cleaning inspection perimeter tank pan seals at the time of the service internal inspection. Refer to section 8915 what is it floating roof pan vacuum vents inspection maintenance requirements of floating pan pressure vacuum vents as required. Refer to section 8916 floating roof pan legs inspection maintenance requirements of floating pan legs as required. Your pontoon floating pan A visually inspect the point pan guide with anti-rotation cable pipes and centering pan of monthly. Visually inspect the pan and grounding cable proper attachment wearing and binding monthly. Visually inspect the buckling and the damage of the pan van monthly. Visually inspect the damage of the deflection rolling ladder if equipped monthly. And pontoon floating roof floating pan inspect the pontoon stand with liquid and present strong annually. Vapors remove the mechanical flow cover the ensure the flow is secure with the fastening with the gauge shape. Check for the gauge shape to use the movement annually. Your pontoon floating pan inspect the damage deflection of the rolling ladder if equipped. Inspect the vector vertical internal ladder internal land pan seal vibration indicate without with the roundness and proper centering if equipped. Inspect the gauge with the wells pans of the vibration might indicate with the out of roundness and proper centering. And J inspect with the steel floating pan coated with the corrosion touch up with the compatible coating. Required aluminum pans do not require coatings. Annually clean the inspect the parameter of the tank pan seals at the time of the service internal inspection. Refer to section 8914 or 8915 floating roof pan pressure vacuum for inspection maintenance the pressure of the floating pan pressure vacuum vents as required. Refer to section 8916 floating pan roof pans and legs for inspection maintenance quantity of the floating pan and legs as required. Your floating roof A visually inspect the center primary roof drain system with water-free monthly. Visually inspect with the inspection anti-roof rotation pipe roof guide centering of the roof monthly. Visually inspect the ground cable of the proper attachment wherever the binding monthly. Visual inspect the buckling damage of the roof monthly. Visual inspect the standing of the water of the roof deck monthly. Visual inspect the damage of the deflection of the rolling ladder if equipped with monthly. And also your floating roofs G through L, or we'll just go G. Ensure the right drip type plug with a plate for the roof drain opening. Ensure the roof drain valve with the H. Ensure the roof drain valve with the rain valve is kept in the closed position, except for each with the rain snowfall when it is open just enough. Drain of the roof line tanks will be retrofitted with a geodomestic dome of the metal roof of the must have the floating roof with the drain line removed before the opening of the roof drain valve within the roof drain line is not to be removed annually. Inspect the pontoon stand of the liquid presence of the strong vapors annually. Remove the mechanical gauge floating cover with ensure the float is securely fastened to the gauge shape of the gauge shape of the easy movement annually. Ensure the emergency drain if the equipment is not blocked with debris annually. Inspect the damage of the deflection of the rolling ladder annually. Inspect the vertical internal ladders, internal ladder, roof seal. The vibration of them might indicate that out of the roundness and proper centering. If equipped, and annually inspect the gauge well. The gauge well roof as vibration might indicate the out of the roundness and the proper centering annually. Inspect floating roof coating for corrosion and the touch up of the compatible coating if required. Annually clean. Inspect the perimeter of the tank pan seal at the time of the service internal inspection. All right, refer to 8915 floating roof pan pressure vacuum for inspection maintenance requirements for the floating roof pressure vacuum vents as required. Refer to section 8916 for the floating roof pan legs and inspection maintenance requirements of floating roof legs as required. All right, your floating roof and pan pressure vacuum, section 8915, floating roof pan pressure vacuums. Inspect the floating roof pan with the pressure vacuum to ensure that the sheet of the retaining strip of the guideline good working order with the pressure vacuum vent is not stuck to its seals instead of the leaves and lifts easily without the sheets of the receipt of the property inside of the gasket where the replace is required. Refer to the manufacturer operation maintenance manual provided with the floating pan roof of the additional kinds of servicing of the pressure vacuum and vent. The interval is at the time of the service internal inspection. Floating roof and pan legs, section 8916. Inspection of the floating roof, the pan legs, tank bottom, striker plate with the wear. Inspect the seal of the legs penetrate with the floating roof of the pan over the legs. Inspect the low of the leg position. Stop to make sure that they are securely fastened to the legs. We'll stop the floating roof of the pan at low position. Inspect with the leg keeper of the strap and make sure that they are securely fastened legs to prevent them from falling off the roof. The floating of the roof pan. Inspect the threads of the keeper of the higher position locking mechanism to ensure that they are properly working order. Ensure that the floating roof of the pan with the high position. Refer to the maintenance manual provided with the floating roof of the pan with additional guidance for floating roof pan legs and associated with hardware. Interval is the time of service and internal inspection. Secondary tank bottoms 892. Tank design with the secondary tank bottom shall have the telltale device with the leak detection port for the allowing with the monitoring of the tank for the flow integrity. The telltale device typically configured as a valve with inspection ports to allow the visual monitoring of the liquid. It may be present between the foundation of the tank floor. The presence of water should indicate the breach of the foundation seal flooring while presence of the petroleum will indicate integrity law for the tank floor. Opening the check tank valve inspection, verify the absence of water or petroleum, and that frequency is monthly. Your tank pressure vacuum vents, figure 893, on-ground shop fabricated tanks. Ensure the tank pressure vacuum vent is present with a riser pipe securely with supported vertically annually. Also, your tank pressure vacuum vents. Inspect the vent settings. Pressure vacuum settings of the pressure vent are usually specified in the vent nameplate with the manufacturer's manual of the vent, and that is annually. Tank pressure vacuum vents. Clean the pressure vacuum vent with the information type of the pressure vacuum vent with the procedure of the removal of the cover hoods and pallet with the removal of the reinsulation be found with the manufactured operation made of the manual. Before removing the pallet of the pressure, all accumulation protection screen with the pallet with all surfaces of the valve of the flush of the screen with the inside of the valve of the other objects fall outside outer sides. Remove the heavy loading of the weights prior to remove the pallet assembly. Remove the deposit of the foreign material using responsible care not to damage the diaphragm and seal, and that is annually. Tank pressure vacuum vents. Inspect gasket seal of the diaphragm pallet seam stem guides to check all the mating surfaces which may be free with the nicks and cut the cracks to breathe that might interfere with the proper seating with the tightness of the valve test. The pellets to ensure that they move freely up and down within the full range of the travel. Emergency vents, figure 894. Alright, external emergency vent, external damage of the shaft as dents of the resting surfacing pin with the obstruction of the equipment pitting conduities from emergency vents. That was annually. Remove the vent with this pop with inspect with the shield. The diaphragm crack with the breakdown, inspect with the retaining cabinet, ensure that they're fastened to the vent man wave tank with the inspect with the cabinet, and check for the emergency vent with the can function properly, reseat annually. Emergency vents, certify that the emergency vents have not been removed. The modified of the emergency vents should not be replaced with the ATG, with the manual sample port, unlevel the alarms, etc. annually. Emergency vents, the tanks are with the equipment. The main way the emergency vents must be inspected with the appropriate type of length with the number of the bolts for the lift, for the clearance of the main way in accordance with the UL 142 standard with the sealed above ground tank for the flammable combustible liquid with section 8 and 9. Alright, your flame arresters 895. And the tube bank must be removed with the clean with the foreign material of the immersing the proof solve of the solution, taking care of the damage for the tube bundling gap that must be inspected with the replaced necessary, and that frequently is annually. The extra high level shut off valve of the second or HLSO section 8961. Active high level tank alarm. Ensure the solenoid valve that activates only when the high level shut off valves. Ensure the high level shut off valves when the solenoid valve is activated quarterly. How the shut-off valve, the isolated drain of the vent with the external floating valve chamber, refill, leave the storage tank with the flow of the chamber to the float valve with a high level shut-off valve closes when the flow is raised annually. Lift the manual test lever of the internal mounted flow level, ensure the high level shut-off valves closed with the float valve is raised annually. Internal high level shut-off valves. Inspect the test level high with the shut-off valve with the float mechanism, counterweight flow, rise flows, and ensure the flow of the mechanism moving freely functional properly closed with the high level shut-off valve. If the valve is not equipped with the manual test of the mechanism, level of the tank that must be raised with a high level shut-off valve at that point in order to test the valve. Ensure the valve is installed with the proper height and that its frequency is annually. Mechanical tape gauges. Visually check the liquid level of the indicator. The measurement appear to be accurate, and that's daily. Also, your mechanical tape gauges. Check the mechanical tank gauge against the automatic electronic tank gauge by manually gauging the tank for the relative accuracy, proper work condition, control of the manufacturer, operation, maintenance, manual, additional maintenance, inspection requirements, and accuracy is quarterly. Alright, your automatic tank gauges. Mechanically operated tank gauge 8981. Visually inspect the gauge to ensure the power is on. There are no warning alarms. The life of the liquid measurement indicator the tank level of reading appear to be accurate. The frequency is daily. Inspect gauge for the head of the buildup of the sediment, and C. Inspect the tape of the conductive V formation with wood input inhibit the movement of the tape up and down. That frequency is quarterly. Mechanically operated tape gauge level of accuracy must be performed again for the hand dip of the measurement of the tank calibrator is required. That semi-annually. Inspect the flow with the guide cable with the open manway with the access with the cup to verify with the guide with the taut. Free of tanks to verify the flow is moving with the free of the sludge and sediment buildup, and then semi-annually. Mechanically operated tape gauge. Inspect the power and control wires for the damage. Inspect the wire connection and the termination points for the damage and loose connections that was annually, and lubricate moving parts of the gauge semi-annually, and lubricate the moving parts of the gauge head annually. Magnetostrictive probes 8982. Visually inspect the gauge, ensure the power is on. There are no warning alarms, lights, liquid measurements indicate the tank level reading appear to be accurate. This frequency is daily. Your magnetostrictive probes. Inspect the probe and assembly for build up the sediment. And quarterly inspect the probes. Assembly probe with the shell of the deformation that would inhibit the movement of the probe quarterly. Your magnetostrictive probes semi-annually. Level the probe. The accuracy must be performed during the hand dip of the measurement of the tank calibrator is required. Verify the probe fill out with a buoyant and sludge of the free of sludge and sediment build up. Inspect power control wire for the damage. Inspect wire connection termination points for the damage and loose connections. Your servo gauge. Visually inspect the gauge and ensure the power is on. There are no warning lights on. Liquid over the measurement indicator the tank level reading and appear to be accurate. The frequency is daily. Inspect the gauge for the head of the buildup and quarterly the sediment. And your servo gauge gauge level of accuracy must be performed again for the hand dip of the measurement of the tank calibrator is required semi-annually. Inspect the flow of the guide cable through the open mainway with the shift cover with the verify with the guide at the top with the free of the kink from the verify the flow is buoyant. Free of the ledge and sediment build up and semi-annually. Inspect the power and control wire for the damage. Inspect all wire connections. Termination point for the damage and loose connection semi-annually. Your servo gauge. Inspect the steering well to be straight with the vertical no dent so that the flow can move fairly. Servo gauge lubricating moving the part for the gauge head annually. Level alarms. External mounted level alarm section 8991. Externally mounted level alarms. The test level alarm switch is isolating chamber from the tank, even the sensing chamber, the isolation valve of the drain with the chamber, the slowly bore with the conduct of the chamber through the funnel over the top of the chamber. The test level must switch to the specified level settings semi-annually. Alright, internally mounted level alarms. Test alarm level switch actuation manual testing levers if the equipped and alarms or switch are not equipped with manual testing, adjust the level of the fuel of the tank alarm point of the operator order the test alarm switches. Not feasible to adjust the level of the fuel tank to all of the step alarm points. Remove the alarm switch from the tank and the test of the alarm. So externally reinstall the alarm switches in the tank once the testing is complete, and that is annually. Product saver tanks. Inspection and product saver tanks ensure the valve is working with properly site level gauge the density balls are working properly or not broken, and hand pumps and electrical pumps are working properly or not leaking. And that frequency is quarterly. Side stream filterization system. Check with a typical 5-gallon or 19 liters if the incorporated filter separated vent tank control is empty. That frequency is monthly. Your side stream filterization section refers to 6.1 for the piping test inspection maintenance for the requirements of the piping as required. Section 3.6.1 basket strain with the inspection maintenance requirements of the basket strainers as required. And refer to section 3.8 with the pump with inspection maintenance requirements as fuel pumps as required. Section 3.6.2 the filter inspection maintenance requirements of the filter is required. And also with your side stream filterization systems, refer to section 4.4.2.2 filter separator control valve inspection maintenance requirements filter separator control valve. Refer to section 9.1.6 the grounding system inspection maintenance requirements of the grounding system refers to Section 919 electrical equipment for inspection maintenance requirements of the control ports, panels. Or your fill ports. Fill ports A. Ensure the fill ports are installed and not broken with the fill port covered and identified with the field's name, type, and installed with the correct tank with visual inspect the fill port with a bucket and ensure that there are no cracks, budges, and holes, and ensure the spill bucket is clean with the dirt and the trash. Water fuel with that frequency is daily. Alright, B. Inspect the drain valve, the spill bucket, ensure the good condition, ensure the cap, install with the receipt, connection port with the vapor type with the not broken, the tractor, ensure the prop, pop the valve with the vapor to recover the pop, and seal with it tightly, no vapor escaping from the tank of the wind, the valve with the cove, that frequency is monthly, and C. Ensure the containment of the engine of the air, the fill port, fuel type, ensure the manual transfer pump, and the drain valve is operational, and that frequency is annually. Alright, leak detection, point sensor and dry. A. Ensure the mounting point panel associated with the point with the center powered on and no alarms are present. The frequency is daily and point sensor dry. Ensure the monitoring space is clearly free of debris and liquid. That frequency is monthly. And point sensor dry. See the test sensor and ensure that it's functionally annually. Point wet sensor wet. Section 8913.2. Ensure the monitoring panel associated with the wet point sensor is powered on and no alarms are present. That frequency is daily. B. Ensure the level of the monitoring fluid liquid is normal range. Monthly test sensor ensure that it's functional annually. Point sensor pressure vacuum. A. Ensure the monitoring panel associated with the pressure vacuum point sensor is powered on and no alarms are present daily. Test the vacuum sensor and proper operation annually. Visual leak detection. Visual inspection leak detection ports and the first signs of leaks of the debris with the operational obstruction obstruction with the view with the appropriate measure to take with the remove the debris with the remedy of the destruction. The frequency is during a routine inspection of the components of the monthly, whichever comes first. And also your visual leak detection system. Visually inspect the reinforcement of telltale holes of the sign of the leak with the telltale holes have not been plugged with the debris of the cap of the big cover the reinforcement plate with the telltale white grease to prevent inspecting nesting building up of the debris, and the frequency is quarterly. Floating suction lines. Check with the external floating suction line with the indicator ensure the floating suction line is moving freely as the level and tank right at the fall, but that is quarterly. The floating suction lines. Inspect the cable floating swinging joint with ensure the interior floating with non-collective fuel with ensure the cable is securely fastened to the anchor point with a good working order with ensure the suction pipe of flange is so port the swing with the joint level, and it's true with the swing joint move freely up and down, but it does not bind. Frequency is when the tank is taken down, the service internal cleaning inspection. Heating coil, steam heating coil, observe with the regulating valve, the check with the thermal heating measure for the control of the tank with the temperature for the safe the range, usually not over 150 degrees, and frequency is each operation, or for number 6 burner with the fuel oil. Straps must be inspected with the proper operation and ensure the condensation back with the steam coil. Your steam type heating coil is pressure checking heat with the coil to 10% above the normal operating pressure annually. Steam coils must be cleaned. Inspect the visual inspection with the corrosion with the wear. The tank with the empty with the cleaning out, and then the inspection all the components of the steel heating coil, such with the joints and support points of valve, the temperature well, the control valve, the steam trap that must be inspected. Check the proper operation visible where the damage coil must be the relief pressure out of the steam. Visually inspect for the leak for the necessary leak damage for the form found must be repaired. Frequency when the tank is taken down with the formal internal inspection with the sooner the steam of the heating coil, the damage inspect the thermal fluid type and thermal fluid type heating coil fixture section 8916.2. Alright, A. Observe the regulating valve. Check with again for the thermometer. Be sure to take for the control of the temperature for the state of the range, usually over 150 degrees over the 969. Number 6 the primary all external valve with the fitting of the components must be inspected with the visual sign of the leak during detection. During operation frequency is each operation, your thermal fluid type heating coil with the pressure checking heating coil with above 10% of the normal operation annually. When tanks are empty, clean with the inspection. Heating the coils must be clean with the inspected visual signs of corrosion wear damage. The coil can be pressurized to check with the leak at the time of the thermal heating of the fluid. Operating pressure for the ambient temperature to alleviate the possible burns of personnel. The leak must be repaired. The frequency of the tank at the time of the formal internal inspection or assumed the thermal heating coil damage suspected. Electrical rod type heating section 8916.3. Inspector heater to ensure that no fluid leakage around the heater tank of the connection of the heater is performing properly. The frequencies at each operation. Your stilling wells must be visually inspected with vertical straight with the free with dense indentation. Sometimes the tank sitting stilling wells will maybe bare carbon steel pipe, but in these instances the steel wells must be replaced with aluminum at the time. And the frequency is at the time of the service internal inspection. Also the inspection floating seal with inside of the seal sealing wells ensure that they are not worn or sealing inside of the seal well property or at the time of the internal inspection. Contaminant systems. Inspect the contamination system for cleanliness if accessible daily. Secondary contamination system is graded and collected the debris which clog the drains inlet for the prevent drain valve. Seeing the properly test drain valve with the leakage through the valve annually. concrete, cement, brick deck, and berm walls and floors. Inspect the vegetation, take the roof of the seal, the crack with the vegetation, remove the in and all the cave with the penetration from the seal, the joint with the cracks and concrete daily. Inspect the wells, construct the brick for the time of the deterioration, spalls, call the free, the wall, and the cracks and joint with the cracks between the brick and the walls. Constructed bricks must be patched immediately to prevent further penetration of the wall structure, and that is daily. Or your concrete, cement, brick, brick, dike, berm, and wall floors. Inspect the wall, construct for the concrete sign with the deterioration, spall, call for the thermal condition for X, and the clean the sealed cracks with fuel resistant seal semi-annually. Inspect the seal of the joint with the concrete walls. Join the sealant with it has been retracted with the joint with between the unbound joint, but it must be removed and replaced with the fuel resistant sealant semi-annually. Alright, dike berms and floors, section 8.10.2.2. Inspect the vegetation, have the take of the root and the seal of the crack of the vegetation must be removed. All the cave to prevent the penetration of the seal, joint with the cracks in the concrete daily. Inspect the floors made with the concrete sign with the deterioration, spell of the freezing, thaw with the condition crack with the clean seal with the cracks and fuel resistance annually. Sealant inspection joint, seal with the joint, seal with the retract of the joint with between the unbounded of the joints has been removed and replaced with fuel resistant semi-annually. Earth and dike walls. Inspect with the vegetation from the take of the root. All vegetation must be removed in all cases daily. Prevent the growth of vegetation. Inspect with the contamination of the fire. Proof the chemical with the sterilization. Herbicide of the insulation of environmental office must be used monthly. Inspect sign of erosion. Inspection should be performed particularly after heavy rains or storms. Prepare areas that have been deteriorated due to erosion quarterly. Self-decking bolted tank containment. Secondary containment structure for the self-decking bolted containments must be inspected visually. Integrity of the breach of the special attention given the pipe penetration with the interstitial draining valves, and that frequency is daily. Alright, flexible membrane liners. Remove the vegetation grown over the gravel, the dirt, and the take of the node with the roof that have penetrated with the flexible membrane liners daily. Visual inspect with the flexible membrane liners where the attached ring dike wall with the concrete piers and other projections deteriorate due to weather, wear, and repairs necessary quarterly. Alright, your flexible membrane walls. Visually inspect the flexible membrane liners, smooth rock gravel. The swap of the gravel that has been washed away with the dew, the storm of the heavy rains, the tear replaced with the gravel taken out with no puncturing over the liner. That is quarterly. Visually inspect the exposed flexible membrane liner for tears and punctures and repair quarterly. Pipe penetrations. Inspect the boot shield of the mechanical line type, the shield of the wear of the cracking, ensure the shields are in good working order, shield of the out of the water, retaining with the petroleum product is intended to repair the relief of the defects of boot linking, seal of the quarterly. Inspect the shield between the pipe and the controlling wall of the berms and floor with the unit retracted from the concrete pipe. Surface must be removed and replaced within the non-fuel resistant seal of the and the frequency is semi-annually. Electric control system equipment. Electric control system equipment that did control the ground verification, the EFSO, the operation of the control panel, motor control power, pump startup button of the system must be tested in the periodic to ensure the proper operation functional. In addition, without the system uninterpretable power supply must be inspected and replaced as necessary, and that frequency is quarterly. Power cables. A visual inspection will verify that no sharp end of the cable installations and tackle the cables are appropriate to tackle and otherwise identify, verify the connection is tightly not corroded on manholes and handholds, verify that they are not flooded or clogged with debris and infested by pests. That frequency is quarterly. Power cable, the insulation resistance test, the test measure the resistant insulation resistance tested during the testing of the cable. Disconnect the bolt ends acceptable table with 100 mega ohms from the cable rated between 120 volts to 1,000 volts. Insulation resistant testing voltage higher than 1,000 volts are to be best perform specialized testing company. That frequency is needed by visual based on visual inspection. Alright, your motor controls. Verify the label links consistent with the drawing of the specifications. Semi-annually verify the push button easily with the operating non-stuck with verify there's no groove with accumulation or ground. Run the seating of the verify the indicating life of the functional replace is required. Semi-annually verify the indicating life of the functional replace is needed. Verify the electrical mechanical interlocks operated in accordance with the design intent in the case of the key interlock with ensure the number of the key of the corresponding key interlock intent of the more key of the required defects. Defeats the intent of the interlock and poses the danger of the server, the potential of the equipment, and extra of the key found that they should be removed from the equipment, and that's semi-annually. Alright, your motor controls. E. Inspects enclosure visible sign corrosions and interior annual exterior semi-annually motor controls. Alright, open enclosure of the be mindful to inspect for the road trapped out with a particular located with the outside look for the sign of the corrosion dangers of accumulation spire was etc. Clean with the enclosure of the compressed air with the apply with the rust of the inhibitors points is needed. Annually motor control with inspect the overcome the particular device the proper machine verify the rating is appropriate with the motor with the for the time of the test for the wire device overheating annually. Motor control inspect for the air arch shoots over the contactor clean with the knee of the portions not burned annually. Motor control inspect the contactor of the abnormal wear. Check for the contact with the roof oxidation, for the contact gap alignment, the pressure area of the corner of the manufacturer recommendation annually. Motor control of the contactors are lifted and sharp with the contact the buzzing over there or indicating the faulty contactor annually. Okay, motor controls when relay switches are firmly seated in the bases. There are no signs of overheating of the vibration. That would be annually. Look for the frayed broken string with the flexible controlling wire replacement such are found. And that's annually. Motor control perform the functional test of the protective devices that are equipped with the self-testing circuits or switches annually. Motor control performing the functional test of all the manual switches. Switches verify the proper operation against the intended design logic. Replace the switches and relieve this operation not satisfactory annually. Alright, motor controls. Performing installation resistance for the controlling wire. Note the testing of the control wire that requires substantial downtime. Therefore, this should be only performed on a case-by-case basis for the reason with the suspect. The installation of the control wire duration frequency is as required. Alright, panel boards. Verify that there are no physical obstruction blocking access for the panel board. Remove the physical obstruction frequency is quarterly. Inspect for the enclosure of the surrounding area of the water damage annually. Verify all the breakers are either on or off position on a trip and breaker with the investigation of the trip. Investigate and the frequency is annually. Verify all the breakers are either on the on or off position if they are trip breakers on. Investigate the cause of the trip annually. All right, what are we on? Panel boards. Verify the breaker operation matches the description of the panel schedule. Observe the breaker wire with the terminal signs of overheating short circuit. Verify all the breakers firmly sheathed, locked in place with the sliding, shaking, and fan. Then verify the grounding wires firmly connected with the grounding bar, and if the breaker malfunction, identify leak with the breaker with the position replace with the possible breaker cannot disconnect with the circuit. The entire panel board must be switched off at U with the main and disconnecting means located out until the breaker is repaired, and that is annually. Alright, your grounding systems. The connection of the grounding system must be surveyed. Verify the continuity of the connection with respect to the loose of the perform the further test. Some of the location must go for the replaced and suspected connections instead of the performing diagnostic test annually. Power grounding system measure the voltage between the equipment grounding conductor, electric grounding conductor, and usually bear copy of the investigating test result above 3 BAC with the additional potential ground annually. Measure the voltage between chassis of the equipment electrode grounding conductor. Investigate the readings to see the 2 VAC frequency annually. Faulty ground resistance check with the half of the testing performed for leave with the low resistant ohmmeter of the digital ohmmeter recommended value between 3 and 5 ohms. No case to the grounding resistance to be higher than 25 ohms frequency every 5 years. Alright, grounding system. Inspect with the ground reel with the corrosion and secure with the grounding reels securely mounted with a rigid base and strip with the clamp with the serviceability. Replace with the clamps with the jaw of the formed deform the corroded spring of the weak with the other effect with the evidence of the prevent with the connection. Inspect the cable of the wires replace with more than 1/3 of the cable of the wires broken quarterly. In the connection with the grounding system, the Faciliteis verify with the continue the connection suspect with loose and broke form further testing with the supplication most cost effective for the replace suspect with the connection inside of the performing diagnostic test for the frequencies annually. Resistance measure for the static of the ground measure static ground the resistance for the new damage of the ground right of the diagram with the resistance greater than 10,000 ohm with the remove the replace with the ground mechanically damage with the repair with the retested frequency is when observed with the tank physically damaged. Electrical motors 9 7 lubricating the motor bearings, inspect with the vibration overheating quarterly, check for the debris of the other form material of the fan housing annually, check the motor grounding wires to ensure the firmly connect to the housing of junction box annually, and if the motors installed the head location, verify the seal of the connection box or continuities are intact annually. Lighting.